The rain was coming down in sheets that Thursday evening in Seattle. The kind of rain that makes you question every life choice that led you to be outside in that moment. I stood on the corner of Pine and Fifth, my designer heels soaked through, my carefully styled hair plastered to my face, watching taxi after taxi pass by with their lights off. Occupied, not available. Story of my life. My phone buzzed again. Another text from David. Where are you? Everyone's waiting. I didn't respond. I couldn't. How do you tell your husband of 7 years that you're standing in the rain, unable to make yourself go to his company's anniversary dinner? Because the thought of smiling and playing the perfect wife for another evening makes you want to scream. That's when I saw it, a yellow cab with its light on, cutting through the rain like a beacon of hope. I practically threw myself in front of it, waving my arms like a madwoman. The taxi pulled over, and I yanked open the back door, collapsing into the seat with a gasp of relief. Thank God, I breathed, water dripping from my hair onto the leather seats. I'm so sorry about the mess. Can you take me to? I looked up into the rearview mirror and stopped mid-sentence. The most striking pair of hazel eyes I'd ever seen was looking back at me, framed by dark eyebrows and a face that made my breath catch in my throat. Where to? The driver asked, her voice low and warm with a hint of amusement. I sat there, frozen, staring at her reflection like an idiot. She had short, dark hair styled in an undercut, sharp cheekbones, and this confident energy that radiated even through the rearview mirror. A small smile played at the corner of her lips as she waited for my answer. I realized I was still staring and forced myself to look away, my cheeks burning. The Fairmont Olympic Hotel, please. Rough night, she asked, pulling back into traffic with practiced ease. I laughed, but it came out bitter. You could say that. Well, you're safe now. I'll get you there in one piece. She glanced at me again in the mirror, and I felt something flutter in my chest that I hadn't felt in years, maybe ever. My name is Alexandra Pierce, Alex, to anyone who actually knows me, though my husband insists on calling me Alexandra. I'm 32 years old, a senior marketing executive at a tech firm, and until that taxi ride, I thought I had my life figured out. I was married to a successful attorney, lived in a beautiful craftsman house in Queen Anne, drove a BMW, and had a walk-in closet full of designer clothes. I was also desperately, soul-crushingly unhappy, and I was about to discover why. I'm Jordan, by the way, the driver said, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between us. Jordan Cross. Alex, I replied automatically, then wondered why I'd used my actual name instead of the more formal Alexandra I typically gave to strangers. Alexandra Pierce. Which one is it, Alex or Alexandra? Jordan asked, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Alex, I said firmly. Definitely Alex. Alex, it is. She made a turn, taking a longer route that I recognized, the scenic way through downtown instead of the highway. So, Alex, running late for something important. I looked down at my outfit, a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, now clinging to me uncomfortably from the rain. My husband's company dinner. His law firm is celebrating their 20th anniversary. Husband, Jordan repeated. And was it my imagination, or did her voice sound slightly different? And you're not exactly rushing to get there. It wasn't a question. I met her eyes in the rearview mirror again, and something about the understanding I saw there made me want to tell her the truth. No, I admitted quietly. I'm not. Want to talk about it, she offered, her tone gentle. I promise I'm a better listener than most therapists, and a lot cheaper. Only the cost of this cab ride. I laughed, a real laugh this time. Don't you have other fares to pick up? It's a slow night. Rain usually keeps people inside. She shrugged. Besides, something tells me you need this more than I need another fare. And just like that, sitting in the back of a taxi with a complete stranger, I started talking. I told her about David, about how we'd met in college when I was 22 and thought I knew what I wanted, how he'd been charming and ambitious and exactly the kind of man I was supposed to marry, how we'd built this perfect life together on paper, the house, the careers, the country club membership. But Jordan prompted gently when I paused. But I feel like I'm suffocating, I whispered, like I'm playing a character in someone else's life. And the worst part is, David's not even a bad guy. He's a good husband, objectively. He doesn't cheat or drink or gamble. He's just not what I need. And I don't think I'm what he needs either, if I'm being honest. What do you need, Alex? Jordan asked, her voice soft. I looked out the window at the rain-soaked streets, the blurred lights of the city, and realized I didn't have an answer. Or maybe I did, but I was too afraid to say it out loud. I don't know, I finally said. I don't know if I've ever known. We drove in silence for a few moments. Then Jordan said something that changed everything. Can I tell you something? And you can tell me to mind my own business if you want, okay? I've been driving a cab for 5 years. You know what I've learned? The people who are truly happy in their marriages don't stand in the pouring rain looking like they'd rather be anywhere else than going home to their spouse. And they definitely don't break down to a stranger in the back of a taxi. My eyes burned with tears I'd been holding back for months, maybe years. I know, I whispered. I know. Jordan pulled the taxi over. We were still several blocks from the hotel. She turned around in her seat to look at me directly, not through the mirror, and the intensity of her gaze made my heart race. Alex, I'm going to say something, and if I'm completely off base, I apologize in advance. But I don't think you're unhappy just because you married the wrong person. I think you're unhappy because you married the wrong gender. The words hung in the air between us. My mouth went dry. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. What? No, I'm not. I'm not gay, I stammered. But even as I said it, something inside me was screaming that she was right. Jordan's expression was kind, understanding. Okay, maybe I'm wrong, but can I ask you something? Have you ever been attracted to a woman? Images flashed through my mind. My best friend in high school, Sarah, who I'd been weirdly obsessed with. My college roommate, Emily, whose every relationship had filled me with an inexplicable jealousy. The way I'd stare a little too long at certain actresses in movies, at women walking down the street, at my yoga instructor. The way I couldn't stop looking at Jordan. Oh my God, I breathed, covering my mouth with my hand as the realization crashed over me like a wave. Oh my God. I didn't make it to David's dinner that night. Instead, I sat in that taxi with Jordan for 2 hours, parked in a corner of a quiet parking lot, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about her own journey, coming out at 19, her family's difficult but eventual acceptance, the freedom she'd found in living authentically. It wasn't easy, she admitted. My parents are Catholic, traditional. When I told them I was gay, my mom cried for a week. My dad didn't speak to me for a month. But you know what? Eventually, they came around. Because they loved me more than they loved their expectations of who I should be. How did you know? I asked. That you were gay. I mean, Jordan smiled. I had my first crush on my softball coach when I was 12. By the time I was 15, I knew. I tried to ignore it, tried to fit in, even dated a guy for a while in high school. But you can't run from who you are forever. It catches up with you eventually. I'm 32 years old, I said, my voice breaking. How did I not know? How did I not see this? Compulsory heterosexuality. Jordan said gently. Society tells us from the moment we're born that girls grow up to marry boys, have kids, live happily ever after. For some people, it takes a long time to realize that narrative doesn't fit them. There's no timeline for self-discovery. Alex, some people know when they're 5. Some people don't figure it out until they're 50. I've wasted so much time, I whispered. No. Jordan's voice was firm. You haven't wasted anything. Every experience you've had has led you to this moment of understanding. And now you get to decide what to do with that knowledge. My phone had been buzzing non-stop calls and texts from David, increasingly worried and then angry. I'd finally sent him a brief text. I'm safe. Can't make it tonight. We need to talk soon. Then, I'd turned my phone to silent. I should let you go, I said eventually, glancing at the meter that Jordan had turned off an hour ago. You've lost so much money because of me. Worth it, Jordan said simply, and the way she looked at me made my stomach flip. Besides, this conversation was more meaningful than any fare I would have picked up tonight. I dug in my purse and pulled out all the cash. I had about $200. Please, take this. I know it doesn't cover Alex. No, I didn't do this for money. Then why did you do it? I asked, meeting her eyes. She held my gaze for a long moment. Because I saw someone in pain, and I wanted to help. And because, she paused, seeming to debate whether to continue. Because from the moment you got in my cab, I couldn't stop thinking about how beautiful you are, even soaking wet and miserable. My breath caught. No one had ever looked at me the way Jordan was looking at me right now. Not David, not any of the men I'd dated before him. This was different, electric, terrifying, and absolutely right. Jordan, I know, she said softly. You're married. You just had a major revelation about your sexuality. Your life is complicated. I'm not expecting anything, Alex. I just wanted you to know that I see you, the real you, and she's pretty amazing. She handed me a business card, her taxi company's card, with a personal number scribbled on the back. If you ever need a ride, or a friend, or just someone to talk to who understands, call me. I took the card, our fingers brushing, and felt a jolt of electricity at the contact. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. I finally went home that night. David was furious, accusing me of embarrassing him in front of his colleagues and partners. We had the biggest fight of our marriage, with him yelling about responsibility and respect, and me standing there silent, knowing that none of it mattered because our marriage was already over. I just had to find the courage to say it out loud. The days that followed, I couldn't stop thinking about Jordan. For the next week, I went through the motions of my life like a zombie, going to work, coming home, sleeping in the guest room because I couldn't bear the thought of sharing a bed with David anymore. Every night, I'd take out Jordan's card and stare at it, turning it over and over in my hands. I started researching late at night. After David had gone to bed, I'd sit in the home office with my laptop, reading coming out stories, exploring LGBTQ forums, watching videos of women talking about their journeys to self-discovery. Every story resonated with me in a way nothing else ever had. I thought about all the signs I'd missed, or more accurately, the signs I'd deliberately ignored, how I'd never really enjoyed sex with David, always feeling disconnected, going through the motions, how I'd explain away my attraction to women as appreciation or admiration, how I'd convince myself that everyone felt this way, that marriage was supposed to be comfortable and friendly rather than passionate. But sitting in that taxi with Jordan, I'd felt more alive than I had in years, maybe ever. A week after our first encounter, I was working late at the office. It was past 9 p.m., and I was the last one there, staring at a presentation that was due the next morning but couldn't seem to focus on. My mind kept drifting back to hazel eyes and a warm smile. I picked up my phone, put it down, picked it up again. Finally, before I could talk myself out of it, I pulled out Jordan's card and dialed the number she'd written on the back. She answered on the second ring. "Hello, Jordan. It's Alex. From last week, the soaking wet mess who had an existential crisis in your cab." I heard her laugh, and the sound made me smile. "Alex, hi. I was hoping you'd call. Yeah. I've been thinking about you. How are you doing?" I leaned back in my office chair, staring at the ceiling. "Honestly, I'm a mess. I can't eat, can't sleep, can't focus on work. All I can think about is how my entire life has been a lie." "That's normal," Jordan said gently. "Coming to terms with your sexuality, especially later in life, is like grieving. You're mourning the life you thought you had, the future you thought you'd have. Is it always this hard? The beginning is hard. But Alex, I promise you, living authentically is worth every difficult moment. Being true to yourself is worth everything." We talked for 2 hours. Jordan told me more about her life. She was 28, drove a taxi part-time while pursuing her master's degree in social work. She wanted to work with LGBTQ+ youth, helping kids who didn't have the support she'd eventually found. "What about you?" she asked. "Tell me about Alex, not Alexandra, the marketing executive, or Mrs. Pierce. Who is Alex when no one's watching?" No one had ever asked me that before. I had to think about it. "I love old movies," I finally said, "like classic Hollywood stuff. Katharine Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly. I watch them when David's traveling for work and I have the house to myself." I paused. I'm realizing now that I might have been more focused on the actresses than the actual plots. Jordan laughed. "That tracks. I love to cook, but David always wants to go out to fancy restaurants, so I rarely do it anymore. I used to paint watercolors, but I haven't picked up a brush in years." I swallowed hard. I don't know who I am anymore. I've spent so long being who everyone else wanted me to be. "Then maybe it's time to find out," Jordan said softly. "Look, I know this is complicated. You're married, you're figuring yourself out, but if you want, would you like to meet for coffee? As friends, no pressure, no expectations. Just two people getting to know each other." My heart was racing. I'd like that. I'd really like that. "Tomorrow, there's a great coffee shop on Capitol Hill, The Grind, very LGBTQ friendly, if you're worried about running into anyone you know." "Tomorrow," I agreed. "What time? Is noon good?" "I know you probably have work. I'll make it work," I said firmly. "I'll be there." After we hung up, I sat in my dark office for a long time, Jordan's card still in my hand. I was married. I was possibly gay. I was about to meet a woman who made my heart race for coffee. My life was falling apart. And for the first time in years, I felt a spark of hope. Coffee and revelations. The grind was exactly the kind of place I'd never been. Cozy, with rainbow flags in the window and bulletin boards covered in flyers for LGBTQ events and support groups. I almost turned around 3 times before I finally pushed through the door. Jordan was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. She stood up when she saw me, and my breath caught. She was wearing jeans, a flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and Converse sneakers. Her hair was slightly messy, like she'd run her hands through it. She looked relaxed, confident, and absolutely gorgeous. "Hey," she said, smiling. "You came. You sound surprised." "A little," she admitted. "I thought you might change your mind. This is a big step." I sat down across from her, accepting the coffee she'd ordered for me. "How did you know what I drink?" "I didn't. I took a guess. Vanilla latte with an extra shot." "That's exactly right." She grinned. "I'm good at reading people. Comes with the job." We sat in awkward silence for a moment, both of us seeming unsure how to start. Then we both spoke at once. "So I wanted to." We laughed, and the tension broke. "You first," Jordan said. I took a deep breath. "I told David I want a divorce." Jordan's eyes widened. "You did? When?" "Last night. After we hung up, I went home, and he was in the living room watching TV. And I just, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't sleep next to him another night. Couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. So I told him I wanted a divorce." "How did he take it?" "Not well." I wrapped my hands around the warm coffee cup. "He was shocked, angry, wanted to know if I was having an affair." I told him no, which is technically true. I just told him I wasn't happy, that I hadn't been happy for a long time, and that we both deserved better. "Did you tell him about?" Jordan gestured vaguely. "About possibly being gay?" "No, I couldn't. Not yet. I'm still trying to figure it out myself." I met her eyes. "Is that cowardly?" "No," Jordan said firmly. "Coming out is deeply personal. You tell people when you're ready, if you're ready. There's no timeline, no rule book. You do what feels right for you." "He's staying with a friend," I continued. "We agreed he'd move out temporarily while we figure out the logistics. A divorce lawyer is coming to the house tomorrow to discuss options." "How are you feeling?" I thought about it. Terrified, relieved, guilty, free. All of it at once. Jordan reached across the table and squeezed my hand. The contact sent warmth flooding through me. "That's completely normal. You're going through something huge, Alex. Be gentle with yourself." We talked for hours. The coffee shop filled up and emptied out around us, but we barely noticed. Jordan told me about the LGBTQ community in Seattle, about resources and support groups for people coming out later in life. She shared stories about her own experiences, her friends, her life. And I found myself opening up in ways I never had before. I told her about my childhood, growing up in a conservative family, in a small town in eastern Washington, how I'd been the perfect daughter, good grades, perfect behavior, never causing trouble, how I'd dated boys, because that's what was expected, never questioning whether I actually wanted to. "I think I've been running on autopilot my entire life," I admitted, following the script I was given without ever asking if it was the life I actually wanted. "So write a new script," Jordan said. "You're only 32, Alex. You have so much life ahead of you. Time to figure out who you really are and what you really want." "What if I'm wrong?" I asked quietly. "What if I blow up my entire life and then realize I'm not actually gay? What if I'm just confused or going through a crisis or Alex?" Jordan's voice was gentle but firm. "Look at me." I met her eyes. "Can I ask you something? And I want you to be completely honest, just with yourself, if not with me, okay? When you think about your future, when you imagine being happy and in love and completely yourself, who are you with?" I closed my eyes, letting myself really visualize it for the first time without judgment or fear. I saw myself in a sunny kitchen, cooking breakfast. I saw another woman come up behind me, wrap her arms around my waist, kiss my neck. I saw us laughing, dancing to music on the radio, completely at ease with each other. I saw Jordan. When I opened my eyes, they were filled with tears. "A woman," I whispered. "I see myself with a woman." Jordan smiled, but there was something sad in her eyes. "Then you have your answer." "I'm so scared," I admitted. "I know, but Alex, you're already doing the hard part. You're being honest with yourself. Everything else will follow from there." We left the coffee shop as the sun was setting, standing on the sidewalk in the golden hour light. People walked past Uskapols holding hands, groups of friends, and I wanted so badly to reach out and hold Jordan's hand, to feel that connection again. Can I see you again? I asked. Is that okay? Or is it too complicated because I'm technically still married and Alex? Jordan interrupted. I'd love to see you again, but I need to be honest about something. My heart sank. Here it comes, I thought. The rejection. I really like you, she continued. From the moment you got in my cab, soaking wet and beautiful and lost, I felt something I haven't felt in a long time. But you're in the middle of a huge life transition. You're ending your marriage, coming to terms with your sexuality, figuring out who you are. And I don't want to be a rebound or an experiment or the person you use to figure yourself out. You're not, I said quickly. Jordan, you're not. You say that now, but you don't know. You've never been with a woman. You've never dated as an out gay person. You've never navigated this world. And I've been the first before. I've been the person someone experiments with and then decides they're not actually gay, or they're not ready, or they want to go back to their normal life, and it hurt like hell. I understood what she was saying, even though every part of me wanted to protest. So what do? We take it slow, Jordan said. We become friends, real friends. I'll help you navigate this transition, introduce you to the community, be there for you. And if, down the line, when you've done the work of figuring yourself out, if there's still something between us, we can revisit this conversation. It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but I knew she was right. I was a mess. I had so much to work through, and Jordan deserved better than someone who was still sorting through the wreckage of their old life. Okay, I agreed. Friends, she confirmed. But the way she looked at me said there was already so much more between us than friendship. Finding myself the next few months were the hardest and most transformative of my life. The divorce proceedings were messy. David couldn't understand why I was leaving. Alternating between begging me to reconsider and accusing me of having an affair, I moved into a small apartment in Capitol Hill, taking only what I needed and leaving behind the life I'd built. My parents were devastated. My mother cried on the phone about what people would think, about how embarrassing it was to have a daughter getting divorced. I didn't tell them the real reason I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. But through it all, Jordan was there. True to her word, she became my friend, my best friend, really. She introduced me to her circle, and I found myself spending time with people I never would have met in my old life. LGBTQ artists and activists, grad students and baristas, people who lived authentically and unapologetically. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Jordan took me to my first gay bar, a women's bar called Wild Rose. I was terrified walking in, sure that everyone would somehow know I was new to this, that I didn't belong. But Jordan stayed close, introduced me to people, made me feel safe, and I watched women dancing together, kissing, holding hands, being themselves, without fear. I saw what was possible. You okay? Jordan asked, appearing at my elbow with a drink for me. Yeah, I said, and I meant it. Actually, I think I am. I also started therapy with a counselor who specialized in sexuality and late in life coming out. Dr. Sarah Chen was patient and helping me process years of repressed feelings and societal conditioning. It's called compulsory heterosexuality, she explained during one session. Society tells us from birth that heterosexuality is the default, the norm, the only option. For many people, especially women, they internalize this messaging so deeply that they don't even recognize their own attraction to women as attraction. They mistake it for admiration, or wanting to be someone, or just really intense friendship. That's exactly it, I said. I thought everyone felt that way about women. I thought all women checked out other women and got weirdly jealous when their female friends dated someone. Dr. Chen smiled, a very common experience among women who come out later in life. The question now is, what do you want moving forward? I want to be honest, I said. I want to live authentically. I want to stop hiding. Then let's work on making that happen. 3 months after that first coffee with Jordan, I finally worked up the courage to tell my parents. I called them on a Sunday afternoon, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something. What is it, Alexandra? My mother's voice was already tense, probably expecting more bad news about the divorce. I'm gay. I'm a lesbian. That's why I left David. That's why I couldn't stay married. I'm attracted to women, not men, and I can't live a lie anymore. The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, my father spoke. Alexandra, this is a phase. You're confused because of the divorce. I'm not confused, Dad. I'm 32 years old. I've thought about this a lot. This is who I am. We didn't raise you to be this way. my mother said, her voice breaking. You didn't raise me to be any particular way. You raised me to be honest and true to myself, and this is me being honest. The conversation didn't go well. My mother hung up crying, and my father told me they needed time to process. Jordan held me while I cried afterward, stroking my hair and telling me it would be okay. Give them time, she said. Some parents come around, some don't. But either way, you did the brave thing. You told your truth. What if they never accept me? Then you build your own family, chosen family, people who love you for exactly who you are. Looking around my small apartment at the friends who'd gathered, Jordan, her roommate Sam, a couple of women I'd met at Wild Rose, I realized I'd already started doing that. The kiss 4 months after our first meeting. Jordan and I were at an art gallery opening in Pioneer Square. One of her friends was showing her photography, and Jordan had invited me to come along. I'd been spending more and more time with her, and the line between friendship and something more was getting increasingly blurred. We stood in front of photographed women, silhouetted against a sunset, holding hands. It was beautiful and romantic and everything I wanted. Jordan, I said quietly, not looking at her, can I ask you something? Always. Do you still think about it, about us? I felt her tense beside me. Alex, double quotes, because I think about it all the time. I finally turned to look at her. I think about you all the time, and I know you said we should take it slow, that I need to figure myself out first. And I've been going to therapy, I've been reading, I've been spending time in the community. My divorce will be final in 2 weeks. And Jordan, I'm not confused anymore. I know who I am. I'm a lesbian, and I'm falling for you. Jordan's eyes were wide, her expression a mix of hope and fear. Alex, are you sure? Because I meant what I said before. I can't be your experiment. I can't. I cut her off by kissing her. It was soft at first, tentative, asking permission, but then Jordan kissed me back, her hand coming up to cup my face, and it was like every romance novel cliché come to life. Fireworks, butterflies, the world falling away, until there was nothing but the two of us. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Jordan rested her forehead against mine. That was ... double quotes, she started. My first kiss with a woman, I finished, and it was perfect. Alex Pierce, you're going to be the death of me, Jordan said, but she was smiling. Is that a yes? Will you give us a chance? On one condition. Anything. Take it slow, really slow. I know you're excited and everything is new and wonderful, but you're still fresh out of a long marriage, still figuring out your place in the queer community. I don't want to rush this and risk losing you. You won't lose me, I promised. Jordan, you helped me find myself. You're not going to lose me. She kissed me again, deeper this time, and I melted into her. We were standing in the middle of an art gallery with people milling around us, and I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I was kissing someone I was genuinely attracted to, someone who made my heart race, someone who saw me for who I really was. It felt like coming home. 6 months later, Jordan and I took it slow, just as she'd insisted. We went on proper dates, dinners, movies, long walks around the city. She introduced me to her parents, who were warm and welcoming despite my recent divorce. I met her friends, became part of her community, found my place in the queer spaces of Seattle, and slowly, carefully, we fell in love. My divorce was finalized 5 months after that first taxi ride. David and I split our assets, sold the house, and went our separate ways. He still didn't fully understand why I'd left, but he'd stopped asking. The last time we spoke, he told me he hoped I'd find whatever it was I was looking for. I already had. My parents were a work in progress. My mother barely spoke to me, though my father had started returning my calls. He told me he was trying to understand, that he'd been reading books and articles about sexuality. It wasn't acceptance, but it was a start. But the biggest surprise came from an unexpected place. 6 months after our first meeting, I was having coffee with Jordan at our usual spot when my phone rang. An unknown number from Eastern Washington. Hello, Alexandra, it's your Aunt Carol, my father's sister. I braced myself for another lecture. Hi, Aunt Carol. I heard about your divorce, and about you being a lesbian. Yes, I said carefully. That's true. I wanted to tell you something. When I was your age, I was in love with my best friend, Margaret. We were together for 2 years in secret, but back then, in the 70s, being gay wasn't an option. Not in our town, not in our family. So I ended it. I married Uncle Jim, had kids, built a life, and I've regretted it every single day since. I was speechless. Margaret died last year. Cancer. I went to her funeral. And her partner of 30 years was there. The life she'd built, the happiness she'd found, and I realized I'd spent 40 years living a lie because I was too afraid to be honest. Aunt Carol, I don't make my mistake. Alexandra, you're braver than I was. Don't let anyone tell you who you should be or who you should love. Life's too short for regrets. After we hung up, I told Jordan what my aunt had said. She took my hand across the table, linking our fingers together. That's why visibility matters, she said quietly. That's why coming out, even when it's hard, makes a difference, because you never know who's watching, who needs to see that it's possible to live authentically. You saw me when I couldn't even see myself. You gave me the courage to be honest. You always had that courage, Jordan said, kissing my forehead. I just helped you find it. We stood there in comfortable silence, swaying slightly to the music drifting from inside. Then Jordan pulled back slightly, reaching into her pocket. Actually, there's something I wanted to ask you. I was going to wait, but this moment feels right. She pulled out a small velvet box, and my heart stopped. Alex, this year with you has been the best year of my life. Watching you discover yourself, come into your own, become this confident, authentic, amazing woman, it's been an honor. And I know it's fast, and I know we said we'd take things slow, but I love you. I'm completely, utterly in love with you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you, if you'll have me. She opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. Alexandra Pierce, will you marry me? I was crying, laughing, nodding, all at once. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. Jordan slipped the ring on my finger, and we kissed as our friends cheered from inside the apartment, having apparently witnessed the whole thing through the glass door. I love you, I whispered against her lips. Thank you for that taxi ride. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for everything. Best fare I ever picked up, Jordan said with a grin. 2 years after that rainy night, Jordan and I got married in a small ceremony at the same art gallery where we'd first kissed. My father walked me down the aisle. My mother wasn't there, but Aunt Carol was, crying happy tears and telling anyone who would listen about how proud she was of me. I wore a simple white dress, and Jordan wore a tailored suit that made my heart race. When we exchanged vows, promising to love and support each other for the rest of our lives, I looked into her hazel eyes and felt completely, utterly at peace. This was who I was always meant to be. This was the life I was always meant to live. After the ceremony, as we danced our first dance as wives, Jordan pulled me close and whispered, "Any regrets?" "Not a single one," I said honestly, "except maybe that I didn't figure this out sooner." "Everything happened exactly when it was supposed to," Jordan said. "You weren't ready before that night, but when you were ready, you found me, or I found you. Either way, we found each other. The universe works in mysterious ways." I agreed. Who knew a rainy night and a random taxi ride would change my entire life? Not random, Jordan corrected with a smile. Fate, destiny, whatever you want to call it. We were always meant to find each other, Alex. You were always meant to be exactly who you are. As we swayed to the music, surrounded by friends and family who loved and accepted us, I thought about that scared woman who'd stood in the rain a year ago, unable to face another night of pretending. I thought about all the years I'd spent living a lie, trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for me. And I thought about the courage it took to finally be honest with myself, with the world, with everyone I loved. Coming out had cost me my marriage, strained my relationship with my mother, upended my entire life, but it had also given me everything: authenticity, freedom, love, and a future I actually wanted to live. I wouldn't change a thing. If you're reading this story and seeing yourself in it, if you're married to someone you love but aren't in love with, if you've been ignoring feelings you can't quite name, if you're living a life that looks perfect on paper but feels empty inside, I want you to know something. It's not too late. It's never too late to be honest with yourself. It's never too late to live authentically. It's never too late to find real, true love and happiness. Yes, coming out later in life is hard. Yes, it's complicated. Yes, people will be hurt, and relationships will change, and you'll lose some things that matter to you. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but I'm here to tell you that it's worth it. Every difficult conversation, every tear shed, every relationship that shifts or ends, it's all worth it for the freedom of finally being yourself. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be in love with someone you're actually attracted to. You deserve to live a life that feels authentic and true. not like you're playing a role in someone else's story. And if you're scared, and you probably are, that's okay. I was terrified. Most people are. But on the other side of that fear is a life you can't even imagine right now. A life full of possibility and authenticity and real, genuine joy. For me, it started with a taxi ride. For you, it might start with something else, a conversation, a realization, a moment of clarity. But whenever and however it happens, trust yourself. Trust that voice inside you that's been trying to tell you the truth for so long. Your authentic self is waiting. And she's pretty amazing. I'm writing this final update 3 years after that first taxi ride, and I wanted to share where life has taken us. Jordan finished her master's degree and now works as a counselor for LGBTQ+ youth, helping kids who are struggling with their identity or dealing with unsupportive families. Watching her do this work, seeing the difference she makes in these young people's lives, fills me with so much pride and love. I left my corporate marketing job and started my own consulting business, working with LGBTQ-owned businesses and nonprofits. The work is more meaningful, even if the paycheck is smaller. I also started a blog sharing my coming out story and supporting women going through similar experiences. The response has been overwhelming. Hundreds of women have reached out to share their own stories, to say thank you, to ask for advice. My mother and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship. She came to Thanksgiving dinner last year and was polite, if not warm, to Jordan. It's not where I want it to be, but it's progress. My father and I are closer than we've ever been. He told me recently that watching me find happiness taught him something about courage and authenticity. Aunt Carol became one of my biggest supporters. She and I meet for lunch once a month, and she tells me stories about Margaret, about the life she wishes she'd been brave enough to live. She says, living vicariously through my happiness helps heal some of her regret. Jordan and I bought a small house in Capitol Hill with a garden where I've started painting again watercolors of the Seattle skyline, of Pike Place Market, of the life we've built together. We have a cat named Sappho, and a dog named Oscar Wilde. We host monthly game nights for our queer friend group. We volunteer at the LGBT Center. We travel, we laugh, we love. We're happy, really, truly happy. Last week, a woman named Michelle reached out through my blog. She was 38, married for 15 years, mother of 2, and had just realized she was gay. She was terrified, didn't know what to do, didn't know if she could go through with leaving her marriage. I met her for coffee at The Grind, the same coffee shop where Jordan and I first met as friends. I told her my story. I listened to hers. I held her hand while she cried, and I told her what Jordan told me that first night. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to live authentically. And whatever you decide, whenever you're ready, there's a whole community here to support you. She sent me a text yesterday. I told my husband, we're starting the separation process. I'm terrified but also relieved. Thank you for showing me it's possible. And that's when I realized that my story, our story, mine and Jordan's, isn't just about us anymore. It's become part of something bigger, a chain of courage and authenticity, each person finding the strength to be honest because they saw someone else do it first. That taxi ride changed my life. But the ripple effects have changed so many others too. People often ask me if I wish I'd figured out my sexuality earlier, if I regret spending my 20s married to a man, living a life that wasn't authentic. Honestly, I don't know. On one hand, I wish I'd had more time living as my true self. I wish I'd spent my 20s exploring my identity, dating women, being part of the LGBTQ community. But on the other hand, every experience I had, everyone's, even the years of living inauthentically led me to that taxi on that rainy night, led me to Jordan, led me to this life. And I wouldn't trade this life for anything. What I do know is this: it's never too late. Whether you're 22 or 32 or 52 or 72, it's never too late to be honest with yourself. It's never too late to start living authentically. Yes, there will be consequences. Yes, people will be hurt. Yes, it will be hard. But you know what's harder? Spending your entire life living a lie, dying having never been truly yourself, looking back with regret at all the years you wasted pretending. That rainy Thursday evening, I was standing on a street corner, unable to make myself go to yet another event as someone I wasn't. I was at rock bottom, drowning in a life that looked perfect but felt empty. And then, a taxi pulled up. Jordan pulled up, and everything changed. I'm not saying everyone needs to find a person to motivate them to come out. Sometimes the motivation is internal, sometimes it's a community, Sometimes it's just reaching a breaking point. But what I am saying is that when you're ready, when you're finally ready to be honest, the universe has a way of supporting you. For me, that support came in the form of a taxi driver with hazel eyes and an understanding smile. For you, it might be something else, but it will come. And when it does, I hope you're brave enough to grab onto it. 3 years ago, I was Alexandra Pierce, trapped in a perfect life that was slowly suffocating me. Today, I'm Alex Pierce. Yes, we both hyphenated, married to the love of my life, living authentically and honestly and joyfully. The journey from there to here wasn't easy, but it was worth every single difficult moment. If you're reading this and you're struggling with your identity, if you're questioning your sexuality, if you're living a lie but don't know how to change it, please know that you're not alone. There's a whole community of people who understand, who have been where you are, who are ready to support you. Your truth is valid. Your feelings are real. You deserve to be happy and authentic and free. It might start with a taxi ride, or a chance encounter, or a moment of clarity in the middle of an ordinary day. But when it starts, and it will start when you're ready, trust yourself. Trust the voice inside that's been trying to tell you the truth all along. Your authentic self is waiting, and trust me, she's worth fighting for, with love and solidarity. Alex Pierce. P.S. Jordan read this entire story and made me include this. And for the record, Alex is still the most beautiful person I've ever seen. Even now, when she's not soaking wet from rain. Especially now, actually, because she's finally comfortable in her own skin. That confidence is incredibly attractive. I'm blushing as I type this. But she's right, being yourself really is the most attractive thing you can be. Now go be yourself. The world is waiting. Here's something I haven't told you yet. 2 years after Jordan and I got married, we bought the taxi company she used to work for. The owner, an older gay man named Frank, was retiring and wanted to sell to someone who understood the importance of what he'd built, a safe transportation service for the LGBTQ+ community. Jordan and I scraped together our savings, took out a small business loan, and became the proud owners of Rainbow Rides. We kept all of Frank's drivers and hired more, specifically recruiting LGBTQ+ drivers and allies who understood the unique safety concerns our community faces. But we also did something else. We started a program called Safe Rides Home, free or subsidized rides for LGBTQ+ youth who needed to escape unsafe situations, get to support groups, or attend Pride events. We partnered with local LGBTQ+ organizations, shelters, and crisis centers. Here's the beautiful thing. Multiple drivers have told us stories similar to ours. Passengers opening up during rides, having revelations, finding courage. One of our drivers, Marcus, told us about a teenage boy who came out to him during a ride to his grandmother's house. Another driver, Sarah, said a woman in her 50s broke down crying in her backseat, finally admitting she'd been in love with her best friend for 30 years. Cars are like confessionals, Jordan said one night as we reviewed the month's financials in our home office. There's something about being in transit, in this liminal space between where you were and where you're going, that makes people honest. Is that what I was for you? I asked, looking up from the spreadsheet. A confession. She smiled, rolling her chair over to mine. You were a revelation. There's a difference. We now have 15 drivers, 10 vehicles, and we're breaking even financially, which for a small business in its second year is pretty good. But more importantly, we're making a difference. We get thank you notes from parents whose kids we've helped, from young people who felt safe for the first time, from community organizations grateful for the partnership. Last month, a woman named Diane called our main line, asking specifically for Jordan. When Jordan called her back, Diane explained that she'd been following my blog and had read our story. She was 45, married for 20 years, and had finally admitted to herself that she was gay. I was wondering, Diane said hesitantly, if maybe I could talk to both of you, in person. I know it's a lot to ask, but I don't know anyone else who's been through this, and I'm so scared. We met her at a quiet restaurant, and for 3 hours, we talked. We shared our experiences, answered her questions, held space for her fears. We connected her with Dr. Chen, my therapist, and with PFLAG, we gave her resources and support group information. How did you know? She asked me at one point. How did you know it wasn't just a phase, or confusion, or a midlife crisis? I thought about it carefully. I think deep down, I always knew. I'd spent so long telling myself I was wrong, that what I felt wasn't real, that I'd convinced myself the lie was true. It wasn't until Jordan asked me to imagine my future, really imagine it, without fear or judgment, that I let myself see the truth. And what did you see? Diane asked. A woman, I said simply. I saw myself happy with a woman, and once I let myself see that, I couldn't unsee it. Diane's eyes filled with tears. I've been having dreams, she whispered, for months, about women, about a life that looks nothing like mine, and I wake up feeling guilty but also hopeful. Is that crazy? Not crazy at all, Jordan assured her. Your subconscious is trying to tell you something. The question is, are you ready to listen? 6 months later, Diane called to tell us she'd come out to her husband and they were separating. It was painful, but necessary. She'd also come out to her adult children, who were supportive. She was starting therapy, exploring her identity, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she could breathe. Thank you, she said. Thank you for being brave enough to share your story. Thank you for showing me it's possible. Last year, a documentary filmmaker named Rachel reached out to us. She was making a film about late-in-life coming out stories and wanted to feature us. At first, I was hesitant. Our story felt so personal, so intimate, but Jordan pointed out that sharing our story more widely could help even more people, so we agreed. The filming process was intense. Rachel interviewed us separately and together. She talked to my father, to Aunt Carol, to Jordan's parents. She filmed us at work, at home, at LGBTQ community events. She even tracked down David, my ex-friend, who surprisingly agreed to be interviewed. When we finally watched the finished documentary at a private screening, I cried through most of it. Seeing our journey laid out like that, the pain, the fear, the courage, the love was overwhelming. But the most powerful part was David's interview. He talked about our marriage with a sadness I hadn't expected. I knew something was wrong, he said on camera. For years, I knew, but I thought if we just kept going, if we just tried harder, it would get better. I convinced myself that's what marriage was: comfortable, companionship, partnership, shared goals. I didn't realize that Alex was suffering because I was suffering too. I was married to someone who could never love me the way I needed to be loved, and she was married to someone she could never be attracted to. We were both living a lie, but we were too afraid to admit it. The interviewer asked him how he felt about Alex now. I hope she's happy, David said. And he seemed to mean it. She deserves to be happy. I've started dating someone, a woman, who actually wants to be with me, who looks at me like Alex never did. And I finally understand what was missing. We both deserve that kind of love. I just wish we'd figured it out sooner, so we both wouldn't have wasted so much time. After the screening, I texted David for the first time in over a year. Thank you for being part of the documentary. I hope you're well, and I hope you find everything you're looking for. He wrote back, already have. Her name is Jennifer. We're getting married next spring. I hope you and Jordan will be as happy as we are. I showed the text to Jordan, and we both marveled at how much had changed. The person I'd been so afraid of hurting, who I thought would never forgive me, had found his own happiness. We'd both been trapped in the wrong life, and freeing ourselves had freed each other too. The documentary, titled The Longest Ride, premiered at the Seattle International Film Festival and won the Audience Award for Best Documentary. It's now streaming on a major platform, and the response has been overwhelming. My inbox exploded with messages from people all over the world, women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, all sharing their own stories of late-in-life realizations. Some had already come out, others were still struggling with the decision. Many just wanted to say thank you for making them feel less alone. One message in particular stuck with me. It was from a woman named Patricia, the same Patricia who'd written a letter to my letter project years ago, the 73-year-old who'd fallen in love with Margaret at a book club. Dear Alex, she wrote, I just watched your documentary with Margaret. We're now 75 and living in a retirement community where we're the only openly gay couple. We watched your story and held hands and cried happy tears. Because of people like you, we get to live openly in our twilight years. We don't have to hide anymore. Thank you for your courage. It gives us courage too. I read that letter to Jordan through tears, and we held each other for a long time, overwhelmed by the impact our story had had. We did something good, Jordan whispered. By being honest, by living authentically, we gave other people permission to do the same. The response to the documentary inspired us to start something new. A support group specifically for women coming out later in life. We partnered with the LGBT Center and started meeting twice a month in their community room. The The first meeting, we expected maybe 5 or 6 women. 23 showed up. They ranged in age from 27 to 62. Some were married, some were divorced, some had children, some didn't. Some had always known they were gay but had suppressed it. Others, like me, had only recently figured it out. We went around the circle, each woman introducing herself and sharing why she was there. Every story was different, but the core emotion was the same: fear mixed with hope, grief mixed with anticipation, shame mixed with the first glimmers of self-acceptance. A woman named Jennifer, 48 years old, married for 25 years with 3 teenage kids, spoke through tears. "I've known since I was 12, but I grew up in a religious household where being gay was a sin, so I prayed it away, dated boys, married a good Christian man, had children, and I've been miserable for 25 years. But I kept telling myself this was God's plan for me, that suffering was noble, that I was being tested." She paused, wiping her eyes. "Then I saw your documentary, and I heard David say that both of you deserved real love, and it hit me. God wouldn't want me to suffer. God would want me to be happy, to love authentically, to be my true self. So I'm here. I haven't told my husband yet. I haven't come out to my kids, but I'm here, and that's a start." By the end of the meeting, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. We'd created something powerful, a space where women could be honest about their struggles, their fears, their hopes, without judgment or shame. The group has been meeting now for 8 months, and it's grown to nearly 40 regular attendees. We've watched women come out to their families, end their marriages, start dating women for the first time. We've held each other through rejections and celebrated each other's victories. Jennifer, the woman from that first meeting, came out to her husband and kids 4 months ago. Her husband was devastated but ultimately supportive. 2 of her kids immediately accepted her. The third is still struggling but trying. She went on her first date with a woman last month. A 50-year-old nurse named Caroline came to group the next week, glowing. "I finally understand what all the fuss is about," she said, laughing. "I kissed her, and I felt it everywhere. I've never felt that before, not once in 25 years of marriage, and I'm so angry that I wasted so much time, but I'm also so grateful that I finally get to experience this." Another woman, Yuki, 62 years old, widowed after 30 years of marriage, shared that she'd been in love with her best friend since college, but had never acted on it. After her husband died, she'd reconnected with that friend, only to discover her friend had felt the same way all along. "We're both in our 60s, Yuki said, smiling. "We've both lived entire lives, raised children, built careers, and now we get a second chance at love. Better late than never, right?" Last month, on the 4-year anniversary of that rainy taxi ride, Jordan surprised me with a trip back to the exact spot where she'd picked me up that night. She'd arranged for one of our Rainbow Rides drivers to meet us there with the same taxi, actually, that we'd kept when we bought the company. "What are we doing here?" I asked, confused. "Get in," Jordan said, opening the back door for me. I slid into the back seat, and Jordan got in the driver's seat, just like that first night. "Where to?" she asked, looking at me in the rearview mirror with a smile. I laughed, understanding what she was doing. "The Fairmont Olympic Hotel. Rough night?" she asked, echoing her words from 4 years ago. "The best night," I corrected. "The night that changed everything." We drove through the city, retracing the route she'd taken that first evening. Jordan told me stories I'd never heard before: how nervous she'd been, how attracted to me she'd felt immediately, how she'd taken the longer route because she didn't want our time together to end. "I knew," she said, "from the moment you got in my cab, soaking wet and beautiful and lost, I knew you were going to change my life. I just didn't know how yet." "I knew too," I admitted. "I looked at you in that mirror, and something inside me woke up, something I'd been suppressing my entire life. You were the catalyst, Jordan. You were the moment everything became clear." When we pulled up to the hotel, the one I never actually made it to that night, Jordan turned off the car and came to open my door. 4 years ago, you got out of my taxi and went home to end your marriage," she said. "Tonight, I want you to get out of this taxi and come inside with me. I booked us a room, the honeymoon suite, actually, because I want to celebrate the night we met, the journey we've been on, and the life we've built together." I took her hand, stepping out of the taxi. "Best fare you ever picked up. Best fare I ever picked up," she confirmed, kissing me right there on the street corner where our story began. We spent the night in that hotel suite, talking and laughing and making love and planning our future. We talked about maybe starting a family, adoption, or IVF. We hadn't decided yet. We talked about expanding rainbow rides to other cities. We talked about writing a book together, something more comprehensive than my blog, about late in life coming out. We've built something beautiful, Jordan said as we lay tangled together in the early morning hours, not just our relationship, but this whole community of support and love and authenticity. We're helping people, Alex. We're making a real difference. We are, I agreed. And it all started with you being brave enough to tell a stranger the truth she needed to hear. You were brave enough to listen, Jordan countered. That's the hard part, hearing a truth that changes everything and being willing to act on it. 6 months ago, we got a call from a woman named Emma, the same Emma who'd messaged me years ago when she was 16, living in a small conservative town, too afraid to come out. She was now 21, in college, and wanted to meet us. We met her for coffee at The Grind, of course, and I barely recognized her. The scared teenager I'd consoled over messages had become a confident young woman, wearing a rainbow pin on her jacket and holding hands with her girlfriend, a bright-eyed girl named Riley. I wanted to thank you in person, Emma said. When I was 16, I was suicidal. I couldn't see a future for myself. I thought being gay meant I'd be alone forever, that I'd never be happy. But then I found your story. I read every blog post, watched every video, and it gave me hope. It gave me something to hold on to during the worst years of my life. She paused, squeezing Riley's hand. I made it through high school. I went to college in a different state where I could be out. I found Riley. I found happiness, and none of that would have been possible if you hadn't shared your story. Riley spoke up then, and Emma's story helped me. I was closeted, struggling with my identity, and Emma was so open and confident. She showed me what was possible. So really, your courage created a chain reaction. You helped Emma, Emma helped me, and now we're both helping others in our LGBTQ+ student group at college. After they left, Jordan and I sat in the coffee shop for a long time, both of us overwhelmed with emotion. That's what it's all about, isn't it? I said finally. Visibility, representation, someone being brave enough to go first, so others know it's possible. And you were brave enough to go first, Jordan said. For Emma, for Michelle, for Diane, for Jennifer, for all the women in our support group. You showed them what's possible. We showed them, I corrected. This is our story, Jordan. Both of us. The book, we're actually writing that book now. It's tentatively titled The Longest Ride, a love story and a guide to lighten life coming out. Half memoir, half self-help guide, filled with our story but also practical advice, resources, and stories from the women in our support group who've given us permission to share their journeys. Our literary agent thinks it could help a lot of people. Several publishers are interested. It's surreal and exciting and terrifying all at once. Yesterday, I was working on a chapter about compulsory heterosexuality, about how society conditions women to ignore or misinterpret their attraction to other women, and I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who'd look at beautiful women and tell herself she just wanted to be them, not be with them, the one who'd explained away every butterfly feeling as intense friendship, the one who'd married a man because that's what she was supposed to do. I wish I could go back and tell her, those feelings are real, that attraction is valid, you're not broken or wrong or confused, you're gay, and that's okay, more than okay, it's beautiful. But I can't go back. None of us can. All we can do is move forward, live authentically, and help others who are where we used to be. That's what the book is for. That's what our support group is for. That's what sharing our story is for. Because somewhere right now, there's a woman standing in the rain, unable to make herself go home to a life that doesn't fit. There's a woman lying awake at night, wondering why she feels so disconnected from her husband. There's a woman watching two women kiss and feeling something she's too afraid to name. And maybe, just maybe, our story will reach her. Maybe it will be the thing that helps her realize she's not alone, she's not broken, and there's a whole community of people waiting to welcome her home. Today it's Thursday evening, again 4 years and 6 months since that first rainy taxi ride. Jordan and I are in our living room, Sappho the cat curled up on Jordan's lap, Oscar Wilde snoring at our feet. We're reviewing final edits on the book manuscript, which is due to our publisher next week. My phone buzzes. Another message through my blog. I almost ignore it. I get dozens a day now, but something makes me open it. Hi Alex, my name is Christina. I'm 45, married for 20 years, mother of 2 teenagers. I just watched your documentary for the 3rd time, and I can't stop crying. I think I'm gay. I've always known something was different about me, but I couldn't name it. Until I saw your story, I saw myself in you, in the way you talked about feeling disconnected, about going through the motions, about looking at women and not understanding what you were feeling. I'm terrified. I don't know what to do, but I needed to tell someone, and you feel safe. Thank you for being brave enough to share your story. It might have just saved my life. I show the message to Jordan, and we look at each other with understanding. This is why we do it. This is why we share our story, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it makes us vulnerable, because stories save lives. Visibility saves lives. Representation saves lives. I write back to Christina, offering support, resources, and our support group information. I tell her what Jordan told me 4 years ago. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to live authentically. And there's a whole community here to support you whenever you're ready. As I hit send, Jordan leans over and kisses my temple. Another one finds her way home, she says softly. Another one, I agree. And somewhere in Seattle, on a rainy Thursday evening, a woman is standing on a street corner, about to get into a taxi that will change her life.